it's unfortunately what happened to a woman when she decided to treat herself to some microblading, but unfortunately ended up going somewhere to get a deal. And I guess the artist was, well, I mean, the artist was not experienced and made a few different mistakes with her face. And it's these sort of things that spread around and are on the internet that make people really concerned. But this woman's unfortunate experience is actually a bit of a cautionary tale in how much research we should do in taking it seriously, what we do for our faces. So permanent makeup is actually an unregulated industry. So there's actually no regulation on training, how many hours you have, or any sort of certificates that you must complete or have, or any sort of level of achievement to be able to actually tattoo someone's face. So this is where things start to get a little bit scary for the consumer, because if we aren't educated and know about these sort of things, we trust the person and we see our face every single day, and it can really have a negative impact when somebody doesn't know what they're doing. So a popular trend right now is microblading, and there are courses out there that take 1 or 2 days, and then people are sent off into the world and they're opening their own businesses and they're tattooing people's faces. So microblading is a hand tool technique where the hair strokes are tattooed onto the face, and it's sort of touted as a very natural solution to doing your eyebrows every single day. And because people are learning and are taught this one technique, it's kind of brought up as something that is okay for everybody to get. And that's not true, but people don't know that about it because that's the only service that they provide. So it's something that they were taught is okay, and the misinformation is actually being spread and is growing from there. So my main goal of this presentation today is just to spread some education about making decisions for yourself and what you should kind of look for when you're deciding for to get these treatments for yourself, and what you should look for in an artist and what could possibly go wrong, and just things that will help you further research and educate in making sure you're making a good decision for your face. So I like to put in here a little hint that price shopping is actually not part of your consideration. So unfortunately, I do get a lot of people that are kind of right away asking, how much for this, how much for that? And obviously your budget is a consideration when you're deciding what services you can afford, but some of these things might be something that you have to save up for if you're wanting quality. So because there's so many people that do offer these services, you may think, okay, I can find it for cheaper, or I can find somebody who does it closer to me, but investing in your face is really, you get what you pay for, especially with some of the different people that I've come to see me that need me to actually fix work that has been done previously. And because it's tattooing, sometimes you can't take back what has been done, and there's only so much we can do to remediate. So I'll be going over myths and challenges in the industry, case studies and benefits, restorative tattooing, which is still kind of gaining some speed and actually just making people aware of its existence and what it can do for people. The tattoo process, what your appointment would look like and how tattooing works, and how to find a quality artist. So a little bit about me, what makes me qualified to talk about these subjects. My name is Candice Falcon, and I am the owner and artist of Falcon Artistry Specialty Tattoo. And I have advanced and ongoing training in permanent cosmetics and restorative tattooing, dealing with compromised skin, scarred skin, and damaged skin, and learning advanced techniques to deal with that and making the best decision for you. And I also like to call myself a type A artist. So I kind of say it as a bit of a confession, because I do like to know what's going on. I like to be organized. I like to kind of have everything all sorted out and put together. So I do kind of struggle a little bit with some of my artistic friends where they just want me to chill or go with the flow. That's a little bit harder for me. I don't really blend in that way. But there's ways that I don't blend in with non-artistic types as well, where I don't, quite fit sort of the normal mold either. I also call myself a self-image advocate. So there's things that we can do for ourselves that help our self-perception and make ourselves feel better about our appearance and how we look. And those are things that we don't need to feel ashamed about. And it's not about vanity. It's about making yourself feel more comfortable in your day-to-day, in your own skin, and giving you the freedom to actually go out there and be yourself without actually feeling like you need to put on makeup or you need to kind of add things to your appearance every single day. So my background is I am an artist first. I've always been an artist painting, doing paintings by commission, doing corporate murals, and working a lot in sort of artistic fields. And I actually went to school for graphic design and illustration, but I found out that I actually hate computer art and I'm really bad with technology. So even though it made me really good and finicky with details and noticing things, I just really didn't enjoy using the computer that much. So I actually just went back into painting and kind of focused more on that and figured out that that was not a way that I could make my art into a career. And I went in a completely different direction and actually became a fire inspector. So at that point, I ended up joining a company and doing inspections from BC to Manitoba. And I actually managed inspectors that were almost double my age, male, and I wrote manuals, I created forms, and I kind of developed a whole part of the company that worked in risk management and kind of got really involved in that, and then kind of realized this just isn't my passion. I'm good at it, and it's interesting, but it's not really what I would like to do. So in 2016, I started Fulkin Artistry Specialty Tattoo, and I really feel like it married the two parts of my personality, being a type A personality, but also very artistic, running my own business and being in control of my environment in that regard, and kind of using what I had learned in sort of the corporate world, and also being able to bring my artistic side into my work. And last year, I opened my Vancouver location, and we're located on Kingsway near Rupert. And that's my sign if you drive by. So my permanent makeup journey is I'm very fair, very light hair. You can see in the top picture there, my lips are naturally the same color as my skin, and my eyebrows were very thin and sparse. So there's the before and after of my lips. And there's a picture of me tattooing my lips, actually. And so I have been through it myself, and I can sympathize when I'm doing these services for you guys. And what does specialty tattoo mean? So I kind of touched on that a little bit before, but it's basically working in advanced techniques that have to do with specifically permanent cosmetics and restorative tattooing. So special circumstances with compromised skin and scarring, but also different parts of the body and ways that we tattoo that make it look more natural or soft. And, pardon me. And we also kind of talk about how these are tattoos for people that don't want to be obviously covered in tattoos. So a lot of my clients already have quite a few tattoos, but these are tattoos that maybe it isn't their style to have full coverage, large tattoos, just to fix small things that bother them about themselves. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So talking about services, these are some of the cosmetic tattoos. So eyebrows, of course, are the most popular, well-known ones that people talk about. And these are powder brows. So a couple of these pictures are actually healed examples. And that's something you want to look out for when you're looking online at people's flashy Instagram pages and everything. How much of those pictures are actually healed? Because when you look at a fresh picture, people could even just lay ink on the skin and make it look really sharp and nice. But how it heals into the skin and looks every day is how it actually is going to bring that result and that aesthetic for you. And if it's not healing well, it doesn't matter how well it looks in the first couple days that you got it done. So there's a couple different styles here, kind of like ombre and powder, and a couple healed pictures as well. And I don't do microblading. So I'll do hair stroke brows with a machine, but I don't use the hand tool. And I feel like microblading is quite damaging to the skin. It doesn't stay in the skin, and it's just too repetitive. And it's not something that I personally feel I should be doing for people. And even the hair strokes, not every skin type is actually a good candidate for that procedure. So it depends. If you have oily skin or mature skin, those strokes will actually blur out. And I usually say to people, maybe let's start with hair strokes if these are eyebrows that you've never really had before and you're getting used to having them on your face and you don't even usually wear makeup. Let's start with that, and then maybe we can kind of graduate to a powdered look later when you've gotten used to having eyebrows. So here's a case study. So the first picture is the way my client was drawing in her brows before. And it's really hard to create your brows out of nowhere with no point of reference when you don't naturally have eyebrows. So she liked them bold and kind of like sharp and dramatic. And as you can see, she actually naturally did not have any eyebrow hair at all. So I like to show a picture of when they're freshly tattooed as opposed to healed, because when they're freshly tattooed, people might say, oh, that's quite dark or dramatic, and maybe that's not what I want. But that healed picture is actually nice and soft. It has that powdered aesthetic to it. And it still looks quite natural, even though she has absolutely no hair. It looks the same as her makeup. And what I'm kind of wanting to highlight with these sort of cases is, yes, it's nice to have her brows, but it's the freedom that comes from that and that security that she feels now. And, you know, being able to go swimming, being able to go on vacation and wipe your face and not wonder, oh, did I just smear my eyebrow? And there's a lot of people that, of course, naturally have eyebrows, but if we're able to give that feature back through tattooing, it really makes a difference in how somebody perceives themselves. And so another service I provide is eyeliner. So there's a couple different types here. Some of them are kind of more natural and thin through the lash line, just thickening up the look and defining the eyes. And then some of them are more dramatic and thick, so thick winged eyeliner. And this is something that I actually went to Vegas to learn how to do. And I did one-on-one specialized training, learning these techniques. And there's things that you have to be really careful about with eyeliner, because there's certain parts of the eye that should not be tattooed, because if you go too far or tattoo in spots that shouldn't be, the skin is so thin that the ink can actually migrate under the skin and pool and spread. And I have had people come to me before and ask if I can do removal to get rid of that ink or to try and cover it up. And unfortunately, at that point, there isn't really anything we can do. You can't laser it because it's under the skin and it's widespread. And you can't do removal because you actually have a chance of spreading it further. And it's one of those issues, again, with people going to places that maybe don't have the education or know the rules and techniques about how these things can be achieved, and they end up damaging someone's face for life. And so lips are one of the services I provide as well. And here are a couple healed pictures and some before and afters. So the really bright red lips are fresh. So as I've said before, they do look quite vibrant when they're first done, and then they settle down into a lighter color. So the bright red lips are actually the same color as my lips right now. So that's what they look like when they're first done. But look at the definition that is actually brought to the lips through tattooing. There wasn't really a defined edge to her lips before, and it really just kind of created more of a shape and made them look bigger and more defined. And as somebody who wears a mask all the time for work, she couldn't really wear lipstick because it was always kind of getting rubbed off, and it was irritating to have. And plus, lipstick is very drying, and you just don't want to have to put on your lips every single day. And a case study for lips is I had a woman come to me who has very naturally thin lips, and the picture beneath that is immediately after tattooing. So they are quite swollen, and she actually said to me, "Oh my goodness, I hope these are going to stay this way." And that's what a lot of people say. They say, "Oh, are these going to stay this big? Is this part of the procedure?" And no, they do just swell because they've been tattooed. And the last picture is actually her lips healed. And we did a little bit of a touch up along the edges just to kind of refine it a little bit, because we had built the lips basically up and creating more of shape and symmetry through the tattoo. So this is what it looks like now, and she's so happy. It's just created a completely different aesthetic for her, looking in the mirror, and just changed completely what her lips look like. And we do beauty marks and freckles, so I usually recommend kind of being a little bit conservative with freckles and spacing them out and doing a couple appointments and kind of building it up and kind of working at them that way. So that's another thing that can be done through tattoo. So how does the appointment work? Every appointment has a built-in consultation. So I always say to people, before you book, read the website, ask questions, and consultations are actually free. If you want to talk to me and figure out what it all entails and what would work best for you, come in, take a look at some pictures, and let's do it case by case and see what would work custom for your face and lifestyle. And so with the built-in consultation at the beginning of the appointment, we draw in the shape and you approve that shape. And then we mix the color that is ideal for your skin tone and what you're hoping to achieve. And then we apply a topical anesthetic for 20 minutes before your appointment. And then we also use that numbing during your tattoo. And after your tattoo is over, there's an opportunity for you to take a look, and if you have anything that you point out or would like to add, everybody notices different things about your face. At that point, we can kind of adjust or add anything, and then we talk about aftercare, and you can ask questions, and there's ongoing support from me as well. And so one of the other services that is not very well known is stretch marks and skin camouflaging and scarring. And this is another one of those things that you do have to be careful, because it is something that you should be very conservative with. You don't want somebody to just be coloring in your stretch marks, because then you just have a colored in strip of skin. So this is something that should be done really carefully over a few different sessions, but it's nice to know that it's out there. And it depends also on the color of the stretch mark and what it looks like, how long you've had it for. So those are all things that we can talk about in a consultation as well. And talking more about your self-image through cosmetic tattooing, they actually are not about vanity. So it's not really about being too lazy to put makeup on. I talked about this a little bit earlier about having your natural appearance enhanced through tattooing. Some people have scarring through their eyebrows, or in this example here, this lady had very low set eyebrows, and she was always trying to dye the hairs above to just create a little bit more of an arch, but that's ongoing expense and appointments to achieve that look, and it's not really a sustainable thing, and it still really wasn't giving her the effect that she was wanting. And one of the things that cosmetic tattooing does as well is it takes your mind off of your appearance and feeling self-conscious about how you look. If you can head out the door and not have to think about your eyebrows all day or how you look because of the tattoos you've gotten, that's something that a tattoo can help you with, and it really just helps you with your self-image. And it's also ideal for if you have cleft lip and you have scarring, we can actually shape the lip and tattoo over scarring and kind of create more of a camouflaged appearance. So there's lots of different options that you can do through tattooing as well. So the benefits would be if you're going to the gym all the time and you're sweating and you're trying to wipe your face, but you're trying to dab around your makeup and you're trying to be careful. And if you work long hours, I actually had a woman come to me who worked in the ambulance, and she said that she was doing CPR compressions and she was sweating and she was thinking, oh my goodness, I hope my eyebrow isn't coming off. And you know, you just don't want to kind of have that on your mind when you're at work. So nurses, people that are putting on their makeup in the morning and hoping it's still there at the end of the day. And going swimming, if you always have to be careful that your face is out of the water or that, you know, everything's running, that's, you know, a piece of your life that you're missing and not able to enjoy. Being able to go on vacation and just enjoy your time. Okay, and so I'm just going to quickly talk about restorative tattooing now. So just a warning that there will be images of breasts and nipples. So this is actually a picture of a 3D appearance nipple tattoo that I was working on. And working with compromised skin, that includes thin skin after surgery, after a mastectomy, radiation, scarring, lymph removal, and creating slower healing. And that might take multiple sessions to get that tattoo to heal in and actually get the result that you want, which is why we have compassionate pricing. So those follow-up sessions are included in your initial cost, and we work with you, and everything's done on a case-by-case basis to make sure that everything is ideal for your skin type, what you've been through, and the type of style and tattoo that you're looking for. So here's a couple examples. So there's the before. So a lot of people don't realize that after a mastectomy, you don't have nipples anymore. So the entire breast is removed, including the nipple. And we're able to tattoo a 3D appearance nipple on in its place. And the two larger images are actually of a healed nipple, and that's just after one session. So sometimes it won't heal in perfectly because it is compromised skin, but we can also do a quick sort of follow-up just to add more definition and detail and ensure that it looks as realistic as possible for you. But it's a pretty good result for just one session it's actually, you can see it's directly over a scar right through the middle, and it really distracts your eye from the scarring. So here's another couple examples, and you can see that the placement of the nipple tattoos actually do create more symmetry. So you can see that the breasts are different sizes and shapes, or one's bigger or lower, but with the placement of the nipples, it actually makes the breasts look more symmetrical. And these are done on a flat surface. So whether you have reconstruction or not, or whether you opt for nipple protrusion surgery after reconstruction, we can tattoo a 3D appearance nipple there. So here are a couple examples, and those are on a flat surface over scars. And there's an example there of a revised scar that I did. So we basically re-traumatize the scar tissue, and when it re-heals, it introduces more collagen back into the scar, and it will actually lessen the shiny appearance that it has, make it look more matte, and actually bring the tissue down from being raised and flatter and smoother. And so asking, who are these tattoos for? So I talk a lot about breast cancer. So I kind of went over that before. whether or not you've had reconstruction. And getting back into the nipple protrusion surgery, the lower images here are of somebody who had a nipple protrusion surgically added. But when we drew the shapes on her breast for where the nipples would be, we actually didn't like the placement of where they were. They just didn't really work out. So we actually had to move the nipple over from where it had originally been surgically enhanced in that area. So even besides something that actually is 3D, I was able to make a 3D shape beside it. And I took a picture with a shadow so that you can actually see that there is a bump there, but I was still able to make it look 3D through tattooing. So sometimes with nipple protrusions, people aren't happy with how they've healed. Maybe they aren't aligned with each other. Maybe one has flattened over time and the other one hasn't. All of that can be mitigated through tattoo. And so other people that can benefit from nipple tattoos are people that have had explant surgery. So they had implants and they had them removed, and there can be extensive scarring and scarring through the natural nipple. So we can do pigmentation over the scarring, and we can do scar revision as well, and maybe even a little bit of skin camouflage over the scarring. And we can restore the appearance of a natural nipple, and we can also do unnatural shapes as well. So we have heart-shaped nipples as well. So that's ideal for people that have given birth and they have irregular edges to their natural nipples. We can add pigmentation to that. Or for people that have gone through gender confirmation surgery, sometimes when you add to the breast, the nipple needs to have more pigmentation added to it to have it more proportionate to the shape. Or if the graft didn't take fully, we can tattoo and accommodate that as well. And unfortunately, with the nipple tattoos, it's kind of a similar situation to the cosmetic tattoo industry. It's not regulated. There are very short courses for doing it. And there are people that do it in surgical offices and in the hospitals, nurses, people that aren't actually necessarily tattoo artists or artists in general or trained properly. And I do see people come in that need help with their previous tattoos that they had received. And some of them are very small and dark red. So because the skin has been damaged, sometimes it's hard to tattoo over these existing nipple tattoos because we actually are very careful when we tattoo, and sometimes they've been done quite roughly. And when you look at this existing tattoo that was done by a surgeon, the edges are very dark and you can almost see the way it was tattooed. And it's good that the middle didn't heal great, but unfortunately the edges are where we want to kind of soften it out and make it look quite natural. So I was actually able to create a more natural appearing nipple from this existing tattoo, and the last 3 images are actually healed. So you can see that the first tattoo that I did is more pink. And then the healed one is more sort of calm and neutral colored. So that's a good example of a before and after with how the tattoos look directly after and healed. And I had her come back in and I said to her, let's try and kind of adjust that dark edge a little bit. Let's see if we can add to the tattoo and fix it. And she said, honestly, I'm so happy with how it looks. I'm all good. Thank you so much. And even though the perfectionist in me kind of wanted to adjust it still, I'm just really happy that I could make a difference and really kind of create a realistic looking nipple for her from what she was living with before. So what can we do when we hear these things? So what I'm doing is I'm coming to events like this and I'm talking about these services for people and trying to spread more awareness that they exist and educating on the types of services and what can be achieved through tattoo. And as far as advocacy for the nipple tattoos, I have met with local government and talked to them about some of the obstacles and challenges that we're currently facing in the industry and the community locally, in the fact that hospitals can't promote private industry, and there's not a lot of talk about these services because people just don't know that they exist, and it's not really discussed in healthcare. It's not discussed outside of that, or if they are hearing about it, it sometimes is discussed as if it is a singular way to go, and there's not really a choice or decision in the matter, or knowing that there are other options available. So even just you guys listening to what I'm talking about today is making a difference, because you can tell other people about what you've learned, and you never know who might need to know about it in the future and learn about these things. And of course, with cosmetic tattooing, that is pretty popular, and maybe people have some ideas or preconceived notions about some of the myths, and you can kind of get in there like a little know-it-all and tell them about that too. And one of the things that's really important to me is just providing info and resources for people about all these different subjects. So at my location on Kingsway in Vancouver, I actually have a tattoo shop, but I like to say it's not really a tattoo shop. It's not really a clinic either. I really wanted it to be a fun, exciting place for people to come to and just learn more about tattooing and the different possibilities. Come in and tell me about some of the things that you're dealing with that other people have said are not possible to get fixed. Maybe your dermatologist or your surgeon or your doctor, if you have lost pigmentation, things like that. There may be solutions through tattoo. So come in and get a free consultation. And we have a big open space at the back where I'm actually hosting different events where we talk about self-image, breast cancer, and just provide resources for these sort of subjects because they are not commonly distributed or talked about in our community right now. I really want people to know that you can call me, email me, you can come in and talk about these things and come to these events that we're going to be holding. So thank you so much for your attention and listening to my presentation. And does anybody have any questions? So basically, if we're talking about how long do you have to wait before you get tattooed, it depends on the type of tattoo that you're wanting to get. But for stretch marks, for example, what I usually say is if the mark is dark in color, it's harder for us to tattoo over top because it'll kind of look like a patch over it because your skin is semi-translucent. We don't want to put a tattoo on that looks like a piece of foundation or makeup over top. So if the stretch marks are older and silver in color, they're more easily camouflaged and tattooed over. And at that point, we can kind of have more options. But I always say to people, let me know and come in, because sometimes people view themselves differently and think, oh, that probably won't work for me, and they kind of make assumptions, but you never know what's possible. So I always welcome questions and having people come in and show me what they have a concern over, and then I let them know honestly whether or not it is a good candidate for tattooing. And there are people that unfortunately I do have to turn away because it's just not a good idea to add to what you have, because we're trying to blend it rather than add more attention to it. Yeah. And as far as the nipple tattooing, generally what we say is it would definitely be at least 6 months after your last surgery. So if you had surgery, explant or mastectomy and reconstruction or gender confirmation, anything like that, we would say at least 6 months, and then at that point come book a free consultation, and then we can take a look at the scarring and see, because everybody's different and it depends on the surgery and it depends on the scarring. So we can feel the tissue and see if it's ready and healed and ready to be tattooed, and we can actually see how much longer it would take. And we like to kind of be conservative and leave some time. So 6 months to a year, but I don't want people to wait a whole year before they come in and check. And sometimes it's nice to just kind of have a little bit of a check-in and get an idea of when that timeline could be, because a lot of people are actually excited and looking forward to it. And it's nice to kind of come in and get more of an idea of what that timeline is for you. Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks. So the question was, do I travel to other places, or does everybody have to come to me, to my location in Vancouver, to get these services? And I'm really actually happy you asked that, because I do travel to Kelowna as well to provide these services to make it more accessible for people in the Okanagan. And I really don't want the added expense and stress of adding travel to your tattoo experience. So I do want it to be more accessible to people, especially because a lot of the people that I work with, it is their first tattoo, and it is kind of a nerve-wracking experience and expense for them. So what I usually say to people is, if we can get more education out there and more awareness that this is something that I will do, if you are in a community that has a need for these services, I definitely would love to travel and actually accommodate those people and provide these services for them. But I do kind of need a little bit of feedback on where these areas are and how many people, and I definitely will travel for that. And I actually did have people in the past approach me from different areas, and it's something that I really do want to do.